Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Prabhu Ji,
Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Glories to
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much for joining. So we will start with the Mangalacharan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrachakam Sagunaragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahaguna Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute तप्त कांचन गौरंगे राधे वृंदवनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय मां च कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितनां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठा भूतले श्रीमद् भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणे प्रचारणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चादेश
Can't hear you.
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Okay, so we will start with the group presentations. So over to Rup Raghunath, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Today we will have the chapter 1 group activities, followed by Q&A, and then followed by the part 1 of the chapter 2 presentation from you. So we can start with the Sankarshana group whenever the group is ready.
Prabhuji, I will share the screen. Asmita Mataji, ready?
Today, the Sankarshana group presents the character sketch of the role of Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata, Duryodhana's shortcomings in spite of his being brave, and why was Sanjaya perceived differently. This is by Bharti Vadwa and Asmita Punwani.
Role of Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata. Dharam Kshetre Kurukshetre, his story began. Yet one word exposed the weakness of the man. Mamaka, my sons, my kingdom, my throne. Bound by mind and me, he lost what was his own. Blind was his eyes, but blindest his heart. From Dharma's clear path, he drifted apart. When Draupadi wept in the Kuru hall, his silence helped Adharma stand tall. The Pandavas and Kauravas were equal in birth, yet he measured their value by selfish worth. A father should guide, unite, and inspire. Instead, he fed envy and fueled the fire. He knew Krishna stood where Dharma would reign, yet chose attachment despite knowing the pain. Thus, Kurukshetra's war became a cry, a kingdom was lost because Dharma stood by. He listened to Sanjaya as the war raged on. He continued to keep silent even though he knew he was wrong. His mind fixed on the throne, mine, I must win this war. Blinded by attachment, he forgot what Dharma stood for. As that single seed of selfishness grew into Mahabharata's flame, bringing ruin to the Kuru race and everlasting shame. When one is under the false ego that I am this body and not an eternal spirit soul, there's sure to be downfall.
Duryodhana's shortcomings in spite of being brave. He was brave and intelligent, but envy controlled him. He could not tolerate the success of the Pandavas. He knew what was right, yet chose the wrong path. Greed and pride influenced many of his decisions. He rejected Krishna's guidance. Even when Krishna tried to establish peace, Duryodhana refused to listen. His greatest enemy was not the Pandavas, but his own mind. His uncontrolled desires led him towards adharma. His downfall came from lust, anger, and greed. Bhagavad Gita 16.21 describes these as the three gates leading to hell. His arrogance refused to let him recognize the supreme personality of Godhead, and that was his biggest drawback. True strength comes from right choices, humility, and respect for others.
Why was Sanjaya perceived differently? While the Kurus chased power blinded by desire and flame, Sanjaya stood on the path of dharma steady as a king. While Dhritarashtra's love for mind obscured what was right, Sanjaya saw with wisdom's eyes and spoke the truth without fright. The Kurus heard only victory, Sanjaya heard conscious call. He narrated not just a battle, but the rise and fall of all. Gifted divine vision by Vyasa, yet humble in his role, he saw beyond the arrows and chariots to the journey of the soul. Sanjaya had divine vision, whereas the master was legally and spiritually blind. Sanjaya tried to teach, tried to steer his master on the point of dharma. Unfortunately, Dhritarashtra wouldn't budge from adharma. One must do one's own duty no matter what the circumstance.
In conclusion, Dhritarashtra teaches us the danger of attachment. Duryodhana teaches us the danger of envy. Sanjaya teaches us the power of spiritual vision and surrender to Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita invites us not to remain blind like Dhritarashtra or proud like Duryodhana, but to become thoughtful and spiritually awakened like Sanjaya. Abandon all varieties of dharma and take refuge in me alone. I shall liberate you from all sins. Do not grieve. Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Come to me. I am with you always. Loving and unalloyed devotion to Krishna is the whole of life. Our journey begins, enhanced by the Bhakti Shastri course.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, very good, very nice and ingenuous way of presenting Vedic facts. First time I'm seeing it this way, and I'm very impressed how you all have. So you did not miss any of the points that needed to be made from a philosophical perspective, but you weaved it very nicely in this audiovisual rhythm. So big thanks to you. Congratulations. Great job.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, Pradyumna group.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Vivek Prabhu and myself, Madhu, will be presenting the next piece on Krishna's appearance in the Bhagavad Gita with evidence from chapter 1. Here we see Krishna loves his devotees. Krishna's deep affection for his devotees is evidenced through his names and his selfless service to Arjuna. Krishna puts Arjuna into confusion for a reason. The confusion Arjuna experiences in chapter 1 is not accidental. It is the divine setup for the Gita transcendental teachings. Krishna seemingly causes the Pandavas to suffer. What appears to be suffering is in fact Krishna's compassionate intervention to set an example and elevate his devotees.
So in this slide, Hare Krishna everyone, Hare Krishna by Hari Prabhu. So in this slide, we focusing on Krishna's loves his devotees. Needless to say, if God won't love, I think none of us will be attracted to him, which he is the supreme attractive person. So the qualities which has been mentioned in chapter 1, like Achyuta, he never falls or fails to show his affection, to protect his devotees. And many of his characteristics Prabhupada describes in the purport, like he becoming charioteer, like he protecting Arjuna all throughout the war. And some of his points has been emphasized in chapter 1 and in subsequent chapters. So I took some notes and put the slide, doesn't mention it, so I'm not going to read from the slide, but infallible, when he became charioteer, there is a very famous story that if one carefully, and this actually happened to me, my father told me that a charioteer is guided by the warrior by his legs. It's not like he will tell him, Krishna take right, Krishna take left, pause, go back. He's doing everything with the leg on his back. So what an amazing, humble situation he took to emphasize in this point. Again, Bhakta Vatsalya, he shows at many points where he will break his own promise to protect his devotees. So these points are emphasized so that at least we people can get more attracted and feel the protection of Krishna. So that's the message on this slide. Next slide. Madhu Mataji, you can take this.
Krishna puts Arjuna into confusion for a reason. We know that when Krishna brought the chariot in front of the enemy, Arjuna was really taken aback and confused. He addresses him as Rishikesh. Arjuna addresses Krishna as Rishikesh, the master of all senses. Krishna already knows the mind of Arjuna, who is feeling deep compassion, seeing his family members arrayed on the battlefield. Krishna places the chariot in front of Arjuna's teachers because he has a larger plan in unfolding the Gita. Arjuna is an instrument in Krishna's hands. As Arjuna surveys the armies and refuses to fight, he does not know he is simply an instrument of Krishna's will. The confusion he experiences is not a failure. It is the divinely arranged doorway to Gita's wisdom. Krishna's perfect plan. Krishna has already determined the fate of these warriors on the battlefield. His guidance is not reactive, it is eternal. Perfect plan of the Supreme Controller, Ishvara, who never acts with partiality. So the lessons we take here is Arjuna's questions and Krishna's answers are not meant only for him. They are meant for every individual soul facing the battles of material life.
So on the last section of this, many times a question comes, Pandavas were Krishna devotee, and why did Krishna make them suffer, and why he chose them for such a tough path? So in the first chapter, there is a few words, and in the purport, Prabhupada describes about 6 types of aggressors: stealing your wealth, setting your home on fire, usurping or running away with your wife, poisoning you, taking away your property, and putting you in exile. Kauravas did all in these aggressions on Pandavas. But Pandavas, being pure devotee of the Lord, they displayed all the time the Achyuta and trusted the Achyuta and Bhaktavatsala quality, and they always relied on his protection and his shelter. That's the message from this slide.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Sorry, we went
Hare
a little
Krishna,
over.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Very nice. Each slide, it carried the message very nicely, and I think you touched all the important points, especially like the way that you established Krishna's affection for his devotees, not only just including Arjun, but also us. The fact that Arjun is already set. He is a pure devotee, very dear to Krishna. and we are not. We are envious to Krishna. But for our benefit, he's taking his own loving, pure devotee and putting him in illusion. So Bhaktvatsalya is not just him being the charioteer of Arjun, but also, as you rightly mentioned, putting him in illusion for our benefit. And I also wanted to appreciate how the other devotees, they appreciate the people who do the presentations. It's very encouraging to the people who make the presentation, and I think it sets the tone for nice, collaborative, mutually appreciative Vaishnav Sangha. So thank you for that. Okay, let's go to the third.
Hare Krishna. So for Aniruddha group, we have the topic of Arjuna's mood in objecting to the battle. And Nikhil Prabhuji will be presenting today, and
Okay.
the entire team
Yeah.
pitched in.
So I will talk about the Arjuna mood in objecting battle. So how Arjuna came to this scene. So Arjuna said to Lord, "O infallible one, place my chariot between the two armies." Where he sees his grandfather, brother, friends, relatives at the opposite side of parties. After seeing his friends, relatives, his grandfather, he overwhelmed by the compassions. His heart trembled as memory of his beloved grandfather and teacher fills in his mind. Because of emotional collapse, his body shivering, he's crying, he's due to anxiety, his body, he's not able to stood up. His Gandhi was sleeping on the bow. He lost his composure. Arjuna leg is shivering. He's not able to fight. And he said to Lord that I'm unable to fight. He's seen some reasons that there is no joy of the victory. If I kill my brothers-in-law or fathers or grandfathers, there is no joy for victory. I'm too much attached with my grandfather and teacher, so he don't want to fight. Fear of if he kills his grandfather or teacher, there is some sinful reaction will come. And I don't want to fight. I want to take renunciation. It's better to take renunciation than gain kingdom from this to killing my teacher and grandfathers. And he gives some arguments to Lord Shri Krishna that war caused the death of elder of his families. And because of that, family tradition will lose. And because of that, Varnashrama system will collapse. And because of that, irreligion in the society will increase. Nobody can guide women and children if elder is not there. There is lack of protection and guidance, and there is no one's because of lack of guidance. There is unwanted progeny happen, and because of unwanted progeny, the children are not that much guided. They will not do any offering to ancestors. So ancestors, there is no pitra arpanam. Because of that, the ancestor falls down from the Pitra Loka. And because of this social chaos and spiritual, there is social chaos and loss of spiritual purpose. People can forget the dharma and people do adharma for sense gratifications. And because of that, the next life will go to hellish life. However, Lord Shri Krishna has condemned this argument and he reminds his duty as a Kshatriya what his duty. He reminds how this coward thoughts is come into his mind. What his duty as a Kshatriya is to fight as a warrior. To not doing his duty is a dishonor as a Kshatriya. And you need to rise above this weakness. You are the Kshatriya, so you need to fight on this war. After hearing of the Lord Shri Krishna, Arjuna still worry. I am unable to fight because I am unable to kill the pious people like the Dronacharya Bhishma, and he is taken shelter to the Lord Shri Krishna. Shishyasteham sadimam tam prapanam. Now I am your disciple and soul surrender unto you. Please instruct me. And Lord Sri Krishna smiled and instructed the Bhagavad Gita, where he discussed the philosophy of art, Atman Karma Yoga, Dhyan Yoga, Asthan Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, where Bhakti Yoga is more important. The crux of the teaching is immortality of the soul. You need to do your duty, detach from the results, and go on the Bhakti path. After hearing these Bhagavad Gita lessons, Arjun says, Nasto Moha Smati Labda. My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from your doubt and am prepared to act according to your instruction. And Arjuna ready for the fight. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nicely summarized, and I like the way that you also brought in almost the entire Bhagavad Gita in perspective, and that's very good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, next group.
Narayana.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my respectful obeisances. I somehow feel that there is an overlap because we have the same slides. But anyways, I'll go and share my screen really quick. Please let me know when you see the screen. So the slide, the topic we are going to present is Arjuna's 5 reasons not to fight. And over to you, Manmohan Prabhuji, to start with. This is Narayana Group.
Hare Krishna, everyone. So today's topic will be Arjuna's reason not to fight. So there are we categorize in 5 categories of not to fight. The first category is called because of compassion, loss of enjoyment, fear of sinful reactions, destruction of family tradition, and weakness. So let's talk about the first reason, compassion with relatives and resultant bodily symptoms. So the compassion comes like in the sign of compassion, like his limbs quiver, mouth patches, body trembles, hair stands on end, hand shiver, gandio bow sleep, and the skin burns, legs unable to stand due to anxiety, mind rails, see only causes of misfortune, right? And so then Arjuna addressed Krishna, my dear Krishna, seeing my related friends and relatives even before me in such a fighting spirit. The limbs of my body are quivering, my mouth is drying up, my whole body is trembling, my hairs are standing on the end of my gandio is slipping from my hand. My skin is burning and I'm unable to stand here any longer. I'm forgetting myself and my mind. So this basically said that Arjuna's reluctance to fight arises from the deep emotional, moral, and the social concerns. Upon seeing his relative, teachers, and friends on the battlefield, he becomes overwhelmed with compassion. His body trembles and his mind becomes disturbed, indicating emotional weakness. So, pass into Muslim Prabhu.
Thank you, Manmohan Prabhu. And I just wanted to share one quick realization here. Like a few years ago, I had a person on my team and he wasn't doing very well for the last 1 year or so. And then we had to take a decision, should we keep him or should we let him go? And there was one feeling of compassion and pity I had on this person. To this date, I carry the same feeling. So that's one, even though Kripya is there, but I was trying to perform my duties without full heart. So that's what has happened. Coming to the next slide, loss of enjoyment. Again, a challenging situation that can lead to the aversion, where Arjuna right now is in a state that he is completely numb. He doesn't feel that even a victory, which is the righteous thing to do, will give him any pleasure in the future, because there will be no relatives, no kinsmen, no family members, even his enemies, he is considering them as his friends and someone he can enjoy with. So that is the loss of enjoyment, again ignorance state. And this is again, like, if I have to share my realizations on this part, again going back to the corporate life. So when we start, we are very full of rajas, we are full of passion that I want to get to the highest state, and then during this journey somewhere in between we feel like I'm not doing that very well with my life, with my health, my family relationships are going here and there. and then we stop doing our duties. That's where we feel like what we have gained, what we have lost. So that is one realization with the loss of enjoyment that trickles in between while we are doing our dharma, our duty. So that's what I've felt as well from time to time. Moving on, over to you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So in Bhagavad Gita, verses 1.36 to 38, Arjuna expresses a deep fear of sinful reaction if he fights in the war. His concern is both moral and spiritual, and Arjuna believes that killing his relative, teachers, or elders will bring sinful consequences. Even though other parties are aggressors, still he feels it is wrong to kill family and gurus, and his compassion is mixed with confusion about dharma or his duty. So Arjuna, so he's thinking like the others are acting out of the greed, lobe, and ignorance, but we understand the consequences. He was saying to Krishna, we should act more responsibly. If we knowingly do wrong, our sin will be even greater. In our day-to-day life, we also think if we're going to do this, it's going to happen this way. We more worry about our future and things, more negative stuff first, instead of working through the dharma what we need to do in our day-to-day life. So over to next slide, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So fourth reason Arjuna is giving is a destruction of the family traditions. So till now he gave the reason as a personal cause, that I will get sins, I will not enjoy. But now he's giving more higher cause, that society will not be benefited by this war. So what he's saying, when the elders of the family will get killed in the war, then there will be no one for the guidance to the younger generations, and they might take to irreligion. And with this, because they will be the head of the family, and then when the head of the family is not or the husband is not religious, then the wife will think there is no need to no need for me to be religious. So like that, the woman will get polluted, and with this irreligious parents, unwanted progeny will be there. So the generation who will come, it will be also confused, and they will be also irreligious. And because they are not following dharma properly, there won't be any offerings to the forefathers, and the forefathers might fall from their positions. So basically, Arjuna is saying all, like the past, present, and future, all generations will become irreligious, and whole social structure will collapse with this one. So
Thank you, Mataji. So I think we can cover 5 and 6 together, actually, because of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shivani Mataji, please.
Yes, Mataji, sorry. So, so Arjuna, the great warrior, he suddenly refuses to fight on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he gave all those 5 reasons that we discussed. So Arjuna arguments sounds ethical, compassionate, and religious. So we have asked in this presentation 3 questions. Why is good not good enough? So Arjuna's reasoning is morally attractive, but spiritually incomplete. His compassion is mixed with attachment to his family, loved ones, his guru. He was more concerned about the sins, family destruction, social disorders, confusion about dharma, and everything. And the problem is not that the compassionate is not wrong. The problem is that Arjuna is allowing his personal attachment to override his higher duty. And the next is, how can piety become a hindrance to spirituality? So Arjuna pious arguments become a hindrance because they are based on the attachment rather than a wisdom. They distract him from his duty as a warrior, and they appear virtuous externally but arise from his inner confusion. And out of all these reasons where Arjuna gave, so which one is the most important reason? So the last one, indecision, is the root cause of the other reasons, because it prevents Arjuna from acting. He's still not sure what is right or what is wrong after giving all those 4 reasons. So he's seeking now surrender to Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone, and sincere apologies for going a little overboard. Sorry about that.
That's okay. And I recognize your point, Ashutosh Prabhu, about the overlap. There's a slight difference in the nuances. The pistol earlier one is more in terms of the mood that causes the manifestation. And I think you focused very nicely, your group focused very nicely on the actual manifestation, these 5 reasons. And I especially like the way that you bring everything together in the last slide where we and this is not an unusual situation. This this interplay between piety and spirituality. Sometimes the biggest hindrance to spirituality is piety. And especially people who preach in India, they know that it is difficult to preach to Brahmanas who are Smarta Brahmanas because they're very strongly founded in piety, but may not take that easily to spirituality. I like the way you bring that point forth. Also, like the art book on the slides. I see the quality of the slides are really awesome. So thank you for that, Hare Krishna.
Vasudeva Group.
Hare Krishna, Prabhujis and Matajis. I'll share my screen. So our topic for our presentation is Krishna inciting Arjuna for going into the war. And we start with the breaking news. All the characters, by the way, we have renamed ourselves with whatever characters we are playing. So I'm the narrator in this case, and anyone who speaks next would be renamed with that character. So breaking news headlines. Breaking news from Kurukshetra. Headlines: Krishna incites Arjuna to fight. Sounds controversial, right? Arjuna wanted to walk away from the war. Krishna told him, get up and fight. So was Krishna pushing Arjuna into violence?
Hare Krishna, everyone. Here I'm acting as a devotee or teacher. So before we judge Krishna and Arjuna, we should understand why the Bhagavad Gita was spoken in a battlefield.
Fine, let's go to the battlefield.
O Krishna, please place my chariot between the two armies, so I may see those assembled here.
Behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here.
Krishna, I see my teachers, my relatives, my friends. My limbs are trembling, my mouth is drying, my bow is slipping from my hand. How can I fight with Bhishma and Drona? I will not fight.
See, Arjuna is compassionate. He wants peace. And now, Krishna will incite him.
Careful, Arjuna's compassion appears noble, but Krishna sees deeper. Krishna is Rishikesha, the master of all the senses. He knows the heart.
Arjuna, where has this weakness come from? It does not befit you. Do not yield to this weakness of heart. Stand up and fight.
There. That sounds like incitement.
Yes, but not ordinary incitement. Ordinary incitement awakens anger. Krishna's words awaken intelligence.
Then why did he speak so strongly?
Because real compassion does not flatter illusion. A doctor may cut to heal. A guru may speak strongly to awaken the soul.
You speak like a learned person, but you are grieving for what is not worthy of a grave. The wise do not lament for the living or of the dead, because the soul is eternal and indestructible.
This is the turning point. Krishna is not feeding Arjuna's hatred. He is removing Arjuna's confusion.
Krishna, my nature is overcome by weakness. I am confused about my duty. Now I am your disciple. Please instruct me.
Now the Bhagavad Gita truly begins. Not when Arjuna argues or collapses, but when Arjuna becomes a student.
But Arjuna is not ordinary. He's Krishna's friend. He's a great warrior. He's called Gudakesh, conqueror of sleep and ignorance. How can such an exalted person become bewildered?
That is the heart of this topic. Arjuna's bewilderment is not like our ordinary forgetfulness of Krishna. Arjuna is an exalted devotee and intimate associate of the Lord. His apparent bewilderment is arranged by Krishna to speak Bhagavad Gita for the benefit of the whole world.
So Krishna was not saying, fight because you hate them.
Krishna is asking Arjuna to fight to uphold Dharma, and as a Kshatriya, Arjuna should perform his duty of fighting against the irreligious Duryodhana and his army. If he does not perform his duty, he will incur sins.
Remember me and fight. Do not fight in forgetfulness. Not fight for ego, not fight for revenge. Remember me and do your duty as service.
But did Krishna force Arjuna?
No, that is very important. After speaking the Gita, Krishna says, "Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish." Krishna gives knowledge. He gives freedom. Arjuna chooses to surrender.
Krishna, my illusion is gone. By your mercy, I have regained my memory. I shall act according to your word.
Now I understand. Krishna did not incite Arjuna's violence, he incited Arjuna's remembrance.
And Arjuna's bewilderment was not a fall down, it was divine arrangement. An exalted devotee appeared confused so that confused souls like us could receive perfect guidance from Krishna.
When your mind is bewildered, do not make the mind your guru. Come to Gita, come to Guru, Sadhu and Sastra, then act.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. I think this was perhaps one of the more difficult subjects to cover. And I like the way that you assume the identities in your Zoom also of the person that you were representing, and that you use the slide to bounce off the respective characters. So very nicely handled, and obviously you covered all the points systematically. Great job.
Yeah, that's all the presentations, Prabhuji. I've set up a timer of 13 minutes for the Q&A. That way we can spend 20-25 minutes for your presentation. So the Q&A session can begin now, and devotees can raise their hand to ask their questions.
Okay. Okay, please go ahead, Amit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandat Pranam. I have a question related with the chapter 1. The question is like how to handle situations where personal attachment affect our decisions, like Arjuna overwhelmed seeing his loved ones as opponent.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's a very practical question. And in effect, you're kind of touching on the essence of the Gita, that if you look at the situation through Gyan Chakshu, through the eyes of the scriptures, we get a response that is more lasting. If we look at it from our own eyes, we will get something that might give us temporary relief, but in the long run might have adversarial effect. Right? So this is exactly the point that Krishna, when he begins to preach to Arjuna, he famous the words Matra Sparshastu Kante Ashitoshana Sukha Dukha Daha. So the point that he makes is that sometimes doing things from the scriptural perspective may seem the more difficult path to go to. Right? Krishna says Marta Sparshastu Kante. It's just the result of the senses interacting with the objects. But if you learn to tolerate that, then and you stay true to the path of the scriptures, that is what will give you lasting benefit. In our situations, when we are facing these kind of scenarios, then taking shelter of if you have a guru, taking shelter of him to ask from other Vaishnavas, and by by meditating on the point that you made, like in the how in the first and the second chapter of the Gita we see this philosophical point being made. So in this way, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, they will guide us in the right direction.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Pritika Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam. So my question is regarding the lecture. So you said that there's a difference between the surrender of Arjuna in chapter 2 and chapter 18. And the first one was Arjuna first surrenders out of frustration and then out of enlightenment. So in this context, like, how can we see our surrender, like, practically? Like, how does it looks like for us? Can you please elaborate on that?
Thank you. It's a very good question. So so just to establish context for others, we see that the first thing that Arjun does before Krishna, or the last thing he does before Krishna begins to speak, is Karpanya doshapata swabhava prachami tvam dharma samudacheta. And then he says, Shishyastam tvam shadi prapannam, that I am a soul surrendered to you. And effectively speaking, that is the last instruction by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Sarvam pratyaja mamekam sharanam kar, right? Surrender unto me. So if Arjuna had already surrendered in 2.8, why wait till 1866, right? And the point that is made is there's a difference in the two surrenders. The first surrender is what Srila Prabhupada in the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita says, that at least theoretically accept the position of Krishna. You may not factually accept it, but you theoretically accept the position of Krishna. That will open your heart to the instructions of Krishna. So the first is Arjuna saying that I am surrendered, and I'm confused, and I'm surrendered to you to help drive away this confusion. The second surrender is, now my confusion is gone, and I'm ready to act in the way that you want me to be. Right. So that is the difference in the two surrenders. In our own life, how do we make this distinction that if you're surrendering out of confusion or enlightenment? Empirically speaking, for the most part, we are in the first situation, right? Very few of us have reached the 1866 stage where we surrender out of enlightenment, right? We're mostly surrendering because we are looking for instructions. But for those who are fortunate to reach that stage, the way we'll know is that when we surrender to Krishna's instructions, the conviction to act upon his instruction will become irresolute, right? Or become resolute, sorry. Right. So when we know that we will follow Krishna's instruction whatsoever the circumstances are, then we are at the 1866 surrender. Right? However, and this is the first situation where most of us are, however, if our heart is open to, yes, we will listen to you, we will try out what you're saying, and we will sincerely try to follow it, that is the surrender of Arjuna in 2.8. Okay, thank you. So I don't see any more hands, so we can start with our summation or overview of chapter 2. So I'm going to tell you that you all have set the bar pretty high. It's going to be difficult for me to reach that bar. Your PowerPoints are like really outstanding, and you obviously have put in a lot of thought
Prabhuji, chapter 2 with higher number of verses will do the good test. So,
We'll do it. Yeah, we have two classes for chapter 2.
Oh.
Right. So the first one is so this is just the first module. I'd like to put it there for every class, because we need to know the names of the chapters also, right? So we need to it'd be good if you memorize it, but if not, at least we should know the lay of the land, the map of the Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 1 ended with Arjun giving, really speaking, 4 reasons and saying that Arjun, Govinda, I will not fight. Chapter 2, Krishna will refute each of these reasons and he'll give authoritative references. So chapter 2 is really the most magical chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That it's the overview of the Gita, which means that everything that Krishna will speak from chapter 3 all the way till chapter 18 is contained in chapter 2. And it's so only the Supreme Personality of Godhead can, just in 72 verses, Krishna gives us the summary of the whole Gita and really speaking of the whole Vedas. If you understand the second chapter nicely, and I strongly recommend that you spend time reading Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srila Prabhupada has spent a lot of time writing purports on the second chapter. It'll create a strong, solid foundation for the rest of the Bhagavad Gita, right? Because it is Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell. So it's broadly divided into these 5 sections. Right, the first is Arjun's surrender, and we kind of spoke fair bit about it. A part of it I addressed as part of the question that was asked. So that is the modality of Arjun's surrender. Then verses 11 to 30 is the Gyan part, Sankhya section of the Gita, and section 3 is 31 to 38, which is karma. Section 4 is 39 to 53, which is nishkam karma. And section 5 is the sthita pragya, the description of a person who is situated in Krishna consciousness. Right. So the section 2 is actually a summary of the third module, the chapters 13 to 18. Section 3 is a summary of the first 6 chapters, and section 4 is a summary of chapters 7 to 12, right? So in this way, we see that all the 18 chapters are kind of summarized in this second chapter, right? So we talked about Arjun's surrender. The fact that he presented all these reasons. And despite presenting all these reasons, he does not walk off the chariot, right? He's still sitting over there, which means that he himself is not convinced about the reasons. And the reasons also kind of display the complexity of the Vedas, because the Vedas are not, they're nuanced. So there is part of the Vedas like which talk about Kshatriya Dharma, Varnashram Dharma, where it's the duty of a warrior to fight. And Krishna will speak about that you should not turn your back to the enemy, right? And Arjun, being a Kshatriya, is very aware of that. But then he goes to a higher level. He speaks from Dharma Shastra. And Dharma Shastra, it talks about the higher values. It talks about forgiveness, magnanimity, talks about the importance of renunciation. So the things that Arjun says, they're not just him rambling. He's a deeply learned person, and he's speaking based on the Vedas itself. But the matter of fact is that the Vedas themselves present different and sometimes contradictory recommendations because they're meant for people with different levels of consciousness. For one who is just wanting to lead a pious life, there is things like Manu Samhita and Shastras that talk specifically about the do's and don'ts of that Varnashram. And for those who are looking to advance higher, there is Dhan Shastra that talks about the more subtle human value. And even what Krishna says is from the Shastras, but he speaks from Bhakti Shastra, which goes to even a higher level.
Prabhuji, just a point on this. The thoughtful conversation what Arjuna proposed is a
Prabhu,
good. Sorry.
can you hold your questions for later on?
Okay.
Thank you. So the outcome of where Arjun is that, so we can see in the initial verses of the Gita, of the second chapter, that he's confused, and Krishna is calling him out. Like he calls him out with many derogatory, so to speak, words, Kshudram, Hriday Dorbulyam, etc. So to some extent, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, right? If Arjun was actually doing what he felt was right, he should have been at peace. But the fact is that even though he was positing that he would like to walk off the battlefield, he still did not feel that it was right, and that was resulting in all this, in this confusion. So what makes Arjuna a suitable recipient of Gita, right? So why are we talking about this? Because inductively, what makes us a suitable recipient of the Gita, right? Because Arjuna is proxying for us. We may not have the opportunity to sit on the chariot with Krishna, but the situation that he is in is something we can relate to. So what can make us a suitable recipient of Gita? Now, Gita is published and anybody can buy it, anybody can read it, but receiving the Gita means making it a part of your life. So Srila Prabhupada calls these points out in the purports that he talks about the fact that Arjuna is compassionate, the fact that he is willing to forgive his enemy, and despite all that they had done, he's willing to take the higher road. We also see that Arjuna has this strong faith in the scriptures. Right. So these points that you made, the Varna Sankar, the sin attached to Guru Hatya, all these are points that is speaking from the scriptures. He is not whimsically making up, right? So we see that he has firm faith in the scriptures. Now maybe Krishna will present a different part of the scriptures to him, but the faith that he has allows him access to the higher aspects of the scriptures, and he's willing to take shelter, right? He's willing to go somewhere and submissively ask for help. So if we are to develop these qualities in ourselves, the fact that we build this we build this moral fiber, that we would like to do right rather than wrong, right? We would like to do as what the scriptures say, as opposed to what our mind tells us, or logic, as opposed to what cultural or convention tells us. So one of the outcomes of the Bhakti Shastri program is developing in the participants this desire for rigor, that when somebody tells you to do something, it is perfectly acceptable for you to ask that from where has this come, Prabhupada would say, if somebody comes to you and say, I'm God, then ask him, where in the scriptures it is said that you are God? Prove based on the scriptures, not based on some magic that you can do or some charismatic speeches you can give. Show me the scriptural references. And finally, surrender, because when we are embarking on the path of spirituality, it cannot be achieved through cold debate or through demanding proof. Right? Sometimes people say, if there is a God, show me God, or if there is a God, make him do something for me, right? Something like that, right? So that's not the mood in which one can make turn towards God. It has to be done in the mood of surrender. And what does surrender mean? Prabhupada humorously would say that devotees they surrender with their minds. They don't surrender their minds, right? In the sense that it's not that you give up your power of questioning. It's not that you give up your power of thinking and just become mechanical robots that are following the scriptures. But what we do is that we inquire, we get convinced, and then we surrender. So 2.2 is, I'm just calling out a few verses that are important. 2.2 is important because first time Krishna speaks in the Bhagavad Gita. Vyasa starts it off with Shri Bhagavan Vacha. And Srila Prabhupada uses this opportunity to write in the purport, why is Krishna God? Right? So that purport is very, very useful. There are 4 verses that Krishna uses in the purport that you will see that he quotes very, very often. And if you know the verses, if you memorize them, good. But these are 4 verses that kind of more or less most of the situations can, if you're talking to somebody, explaining to them, these 4 verses are sufficient to drive this point home. The first is Brahma Samhita, famous verse, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidanand Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarvakaran Karan. Like Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller. Sachidanand Vigraha. Vigraha means he is a person. He has a form that is Sachitanand, that is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Anadiradir Govinda. Right? Anadir means Anadir is without a beginning and without an end. And Sarvakaran Karanam is the cause of all causes. Right? So this verse succinctly but very comprehensively establishes who is God and also attributes the name of that God, right? The primary name, Ishvara Parama Krishna. Right? So there are many controllers, but there is one supreme controller, that is Krishna, who is a person who precedes everybody, who is there when everybody is gone, and he is the cause of all causes. Right. So this is the Paribhasha shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam. Etecham sakala pumsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indradi Vyakulam Lokam Hridayante Yuge Yuge. Right. So the essence of the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, is this verse, and it says Etecham sakala pumsha. Right. There are so many incarnations, but Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. So tu means but, Krishna is Bhagavan Swayam. Only Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, right? And then his position as God, Indradi Vyakulam Lokam, that even when Indra gets bewildered, then he takes shelter of Krishna. Then this is another famous verse from the Bhagavatam. Vadanti tattva tattvavidas tattvam yash jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagvaneti shabdayate. So here the 3 aspects of Godhead is described, that brahmeti, that he can be perceived as Brahman, paramatmeti, he can be perceived as the localized Paramatma, and Bhagavan, that he is the person or the personality of Godhead. Vadanti tattva tattva. That those who know the truth, they basically make this point. So this answers the question of, if Krishna is God, what about Paramatma? What about Brahman? Right. So this answers that. 1328 answers the question, if Krishna is God, what about the other gods? What about the Devas? What about Lord Vishnu? What about Varadev, etc.? So the first line, Etacham Sakala Pumsha, says amongst all the incarnations, Krishna is there. Indradi Vyakulam, Indra is actually representing all the Devas. Even they take shelter of him, right? So that completely establishes the position of Krishna. And the fourth verse that Srila Prabhupada loves to quote in context of Krishna, this is by Parashar Muni, and he gives the more analytical description of Bhagavan. Aishwarasya samagrasya virasya yashasriya jnana vairagyayoscheva shaditi bhagam gana. Right? So he says there are 6 qualities that God is, or Krishna is replete in. In this there is no mention of Krishna, but the point that he makes is that only God can be replete in all the 6 qualities. Aishwarasya, he has all the opulences, chivalry, fame, beauty, knowledge, renunciation. Like Prabhupada says that there may be personalities that may excel in 1 or 2 of them, but only Krishna can excel in all of them. That he has all the opulences, but vairagyas, he's completely detached. Virasya, that nobody can defeat him. Yashaya, nobody is more famous than Krishna. So moving on, so we saw that the first part of the chapter is Krishna's chastisement of Arjun, and Krishna uses some pretty heavy words, right? He says Kashmalam, Anarya, Sarvagam, Akirti, Shudram Hriday Dorbalyam. That's pretty hard. You know, Shudra is one who laments unnecessarily, right? Hriday Dorbalyam, weak heart. So for a Kshatriya, these kind of words are like fighting words. Later on in the Mahabharata, at one point, Yudhishthira gets upset at Arjun and says that you're not. So Yudhishthira had gotten hurt, and Arjun left the battlefield to check on him. So Yudhishthira got upset, saying, "Why don't you leave the battlefield? Why have you come over here to check on me? You just give up your Gandhi." And then Arjun got so upset that he was actually took out his sword, was ready to kill Yudhishthira, and Krishna, of course, intervened. But here we see that even though Krishna is using such heavy words on Arjun, Arjun is actually listening to them. So 2 reasons. One is the relationship between Krishna and Arjun is that of being friends. So and as friends, there's a fair bit of latitude. And later on in the 13th chapter, when Arjun sees Krishna's universal form, then he says that as a friend, I have spoken to you many times disrespectfully. And so sometimes Arjun would call Krishna Yadav, that he is from the Yaduvanshi, but in a way he was also making fun of him, because the Yaduvanshi compared to the Kuruvansh was a much smaller clan, much weaker clan. You know, sometimes he would say that to Krishna that you're a Vaishya, not a Kshatriya, and so just like friends make fun of friends. So that latitude is there. Also, Krishna's chastisement is meant to shake Arjun up, right? So he's essentially putting up a mirror to Arjun. Sometimes we need that, right? We are wallowing in our own self-created environment, and somebody needs to come and basically give us a perspective that this is what's going on with you, and this is, we see, is what will lead Arjun to surrender. So this is probably one of the most potent verses in the Gita, and this was also brought up in one of the question answers, where the proper mood of receiving instructions is displayed, right? So what do we see over here? First is acknowledgement, right? That Arjun is acknowledging the fact that he is confused about his duty, he has lost all of his composure, he is experiencing miserly weakness, right? So unless we acknowledge that we are in a situation that requires help, we can never take to the path of spirituality. Right? Now, it does not mean that we become nihilistic or we basically engage in self-abnegation, that we are terrible, we are useless, we are whatever it is. But there has to be a philosophical acknowledgement of the fact that the material world is not solving all the problems that it is creating. And there is in this cycle of problem creation and solution, the problem creation is exceeding the solution. And when we are able to acknowledge that at a very, very personal level, right, not just at a theoretical level, that yes, I feel that in this life, I am not getting everything that I would like to get, then our spiritual journey can begin. Now, the second thing is that having acknowledged the fact that he's in an uncomfortable situation, he turns to Krishna. So he does not turn to, and in the next verse he will say, nobody but you can drive this off, which means that having acknowledged his dire situation, he's going to the right source. And that is the second important step in a surrender, that we go to the right source, which is the scriptures. And from the scriptures, everything else unfolds. The scriptures tell us to take shelter of a guru, ask us to inquire from a guru, and then the whole process of sadhana vaidhi bhakti. So all that unfolds successively after that. Right? So sometimes when people are put in dire situations, they deviate. They may take to tantrics, black magic. They may actually take to crime. They may take to negativity. They may become just fatalistic. Right. So all those things will not only will it not solve the problem, but it is setting the stage for future problems. Whereas in this case, we see that by turning to the right source, Arjuna is now setting himself for success. Now he says that I'm asking you, tell me what is best for me. It's very important that he's saying that. So we should not go to the guru and ask him that what are the stocks that are going to do well tomorrow, or where should I put in my real estate investment, or can you give me some mantra to succeed in my business endeavor. Maybe there are gurus who have the ability to do that, but it's like you're going to a jewelry shop and buying iron over there. So we should ask for what is best for us. And best for us is what is best for not the body, but the soul. And Arjun concludes by saying that I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. So surrender is very, very important, because as I mentioned, spiritual instructions cannot be empirically verified. Now, they are verified by Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, but they cannot be empirically verified. They have to be accepted on faith. They have to be acted upon by faith. And then the process actually delivers the verification. So in terms of, beginning from this, in the remaining set of the verses, Krishna will instruct Arjuna on the fact that he is not the body, but the soul. right? So that is the basis of the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, right? From 2:12 to 2:30. 2:11 is just Krishna chastising Arjuna, that while pretending to be a learned person, you're being a fool. And Prabhupada says that the duty of the guru is to chastise the disciple. The duty of the disciple is to consider himself to be fool number one in front of the guru. The disciple sits in front of the guru and starts challenging everything he says or trying to show that he is much smarter than the guru. That relationship will never yield any result. And so having properly established the relationship between guru-disciple, the first set of instruction, which is in the category of Sankhya, is given in the definition of the identity of Arjuna. So 2:12 is one of the most famous verses of Bhagavad Gita. Natvayam jatu narsham natvam janadipa nachevana bhavishyama sarve vayamta param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, and never will there be a time when they will cease to exist. So the essential definition of that verse contains the essential definition of both Krishna and the soul. Krishna is unique and eternal, and eternally an individual. Each one of us is unique and eternal, and eternally an individual. So it negates the whole Mayavadi conception of merging of the soul. So especially this is prominent in the Shankara philosophy, that at the time of death, or when one reaches perfection, at the time of death, the soul merges back into the Brahman and loses identity. But not supported by Bhagavad Gita. If the soul is eternally eternal, is eternally the individual, there is no question of anything merging. And Krishna is a person. There's no question of anything merging into Krishna. And Krishna uses various paradigms to talk about the nature of the soul, right? So he says that how the soul cannot be cut to pieces, cannot be burned by fire, cannot be dissolved by water. Same point. It's basically the logic of emphasis through repetition. The point that he makes is that the soul is an individual, indivisible unit, right? So it's not that the soul divides into many souls or many souls combine into one. Just like Krishna is eternal, the soul is eternal, right? So there are three things that are considered to be eternal. There is Krishna, there is soul, and there is the scriptures. All three of them are co-eternal, so to speak. So from verse 12 to 13, like I said, Krishna makes several propositions to define the soul and distinguish it from the body. Right? The body is made of material elements, the soul is made of spiritual. It's constantly, the material body is constantly changing, right? And gives this example of Kaumaram, Yavanam, Jara, from youth to old age to older age. But the soul never changes. The material body is temporary, it comes and goes. The spiritual soul is permanent. Material body is destructible, the soul is indestructible, right? Now, Sankhya can state a fact, right? But you have to accept it on faith, right? So think of it that you go to somebody who has no conception of it and tell him that you're not the body or the soul. You can give a lot of these examples that like Srila Prabhupada would do with children, that you touch your nose, touch your eyes, touch your ears, then you say touch yourself. And then the child would be like, who am I? Right? And that would be a segue into Krishna saying, okay, you're the person who owns the nose and the eyes, and you're the soul. Or this the verse spoken by Krishna, that how the body keeps changing. We see it in our own lives, we see it around us, but the soul does not change. That's why the person does not change. But regardless of these empirical evidences, one has to accept it on faith. However, this faith becomes experiential faith when actually executes the instructions of the Lord. Right. So it's not that Krishna leaves you hanging. He says, okay, you're not the body, you're the soul. Just accept it. So what he's saying is accept it for now. But later on, I will tell you what are the things that you can do where you will actually begin to experience the fact that you are not the body, but the soul. But that experience is predicated on your accepting it on faith for now. Okay, so this is the end of the lecture, even though it's 21, but I've actually covered till verse 30. Next time we'll do from verse 31 to 72. So let's see, how do I stop sharing? They seem to want to stop sharing. Yeah, here it is. Stop sharing. Okay. So I believe we have run out of time, so we'll end over here. Once again, thank you very much for your wonderful presentations and for your thoughtful questions. Keep both of them coming. So we'll end with our prayers. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanande. Hari
Hari Bol.
Hare
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Bol. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.